So, Taubie, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born and bred in what is now called the Northwest Province of South Africa. I was born in Rustenburg, and to both my parents, my father and my mother were teachers. My mother is still alive. My father is no longer alive, but they were teachers, both of them mathematics teachers. And trust me, I'm not good at math, which is quite a joke in the family. But I grew up in the Northwest Province. My father died when I was very young, and I was brought up by women, grandmothers, aunts, my mother, and it is a part of my life that has really shaped who I am today. And I'm very proud of that part of my life that, a lot of people, when they're brought up by a single mother and there is no father in the house, life becomes very difficult. But I had a very, very inspirational childhood because of the women that brought me up.
So, Taubie, looking back at your early days, who else inspired you as you grew up?
Definitely my role model was my mother. My first, and today, she is still the woman that I want to become when I grow up. She is still that inspirational role model. She influenced me a lot. My mother lost her husband when she was in her late 20s, and she had 3 young girls to bring up. But and as you know, in South Africa, especially in Black communities, it becomes very difficult for a single woman who herself is trying to make a living to bring up 3 well-balanced women that are quite successful in their lives. My mother is an absolute hero to me. She put herself through university while bringing up kids. She taught us the value of education. She taught us the value of independence and for us to always be generous with what we have. So my mother is my hero. She's the one who's influenced me in my life till today when there are things that are difficult in my life and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't cope. All I have to do is look at my mother and say, if she could do it, when things were even harder for her during those days when apartheid was a real thing, and she managed to bring up girls who are leaders in their own industry, then I know that anything is possible. So she is my hero. She is my influencer. She is the person that I look to.
And thank you, Taubie. Can you maybe tell us, you mentioned 3 girls, your 2 sisters.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your sisters?
I am in the middle of 3 girls. So I've got an older sister who's a general in the Defense Force, very strong woman, and she's got boys. And I've got my younger sister who has been living outside South Africa for 21 years now. She's a respiratory physiotherapist. And as you know, I am working in the business tourism industry. But my sisters are also, they are my best friends. They are very, very strong. And they are both, I don't have any children, but they are both mothers to boys, which is beautiful. And my mother was very, very happy because now she finally had grandchildren who are boys. And but I have a very close relationship with my sisters. My younger sister is finally moving back home to South Africa at the end of June, which is fantastic. And I can't wait. And those are also, so the 3 of us with our mother, we are the awesome foursome. We're like friends. So that's people that really make my heart sing.
That's a great brand, the Awesome Foursome.
Yes.
now, Taubie, can you tell us what was your dream career when you grew up?
Wow. Do you really want to know? I wanted to be an actress when I was growing up. I actually did 1 year at Wits drama school when I left high school because I really, 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 really believed I wanted to be an actress. But I was such a mama's girl that after 1 year in Johannesburg, I could not. I wanted to go back home. I missed home. I missed my mother. I was crying every day on the phone. And then she says, before you waste any more of my money, decide, do you want to pursue this or do you want to do something else? Then I decided, no, I want to come back home. And then I went back home and pursued a degree in communications. So I thought I wanted to be an actress because it looked like such a glamorous career. So that was my dream as a little girl.
Well, is it fair to say today you're still acting on the world stage?
Well, yes, a different kind of acting on the world stage. But I believe that 1 year that I spent at Wits Drama School actually opened me up to become more confident also, learning the techniques, learning to be, communication. That is, I think it was from there that I found that I did want to go into the communication space as a discipline.
Now, Taubie, you're leading a very, very impressive career. You've been leading teams, you've been leading events, you've been leading companies across the country. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point or maybe a number of turning points?
I would say yes, there would have been a number of turning points. But there are some moments that stand out, obviously, in my career. I obviously studied communications, and within my first degree, there was an opportunity to work in television. There was also an opportunity to work in public relations. There was an opportunity to work for a newspaper. And everything that was happening was preparing me for where I am in my career right now. But the turning point for me was when I was working at the SABC in television as the chief of staff to the CEO. And one of my responsibilities was to run special projects for the CEO in his office. And it was during one of the big conferences that the television division of the SABC hosted together in partnership with Dimension Data. It was called the CEO Summit. It was a global summit where 100 CEOs from Fortune 500 companies were invited to South Africa for a conference. And one of my duties was to see if I could invite some ministers that could come and also participate. I tried my best. The only minister that I managed to get to attend the conference, it was in George, I remember, was Mr. Tito Mboweni, who was then the Minister of Labor. He attended the Congress, and it was during that Congress that he identified me as somebody that he would love to recruit to come and run the conference center and the division for conferencing and protocol at the Reserve Bank, when he then got appointed governor. So it was a few years after I had met him that he said to me, we've got a vacancy. I would encourage you to apply. And I applied, and I was fortunate. He did not even interview me. He actually said to me, I hear you've been employed because you did so well in the interview. And that was what introduced me to the job that I'm doing right now. And this was in 2009. That's how long ago it was that I got introduced to conference centers, managing a conference center, the world of business events and running conferences. And I will always, always be grateful to that opportunity and to Mr. Mboweni for giving me the opportunity to do what I can't imagine my life not doing this anymore. That was the turning point for me. And what it taught me, and I always say this to my nieces and nephews, always do your best. You don't know who's watching. You never know who's watching. So never, ever, ever do mediocre work. Always put your best foot forward, because the person that is going to change your entire career might be watching. And that's what happened to me. And I'm forever grateful. And he was a very tough boss, very difficult boss, but extremely fair. He taught me a lot about professional conduct, about being ethical in the work that you do. And I have a lot of respect for the ex-governor and ex-minister Mboweni.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Taubie. Now, can you tell us what is driving you today? When you get up, what is making you tick and do all the work you're doing?
Listen, my team, they're probably so tired of hearing me say this. Obviously, I love the industry that I'm in. I mean, from the Reserve Bank, I then continue to do the same work when I joined Absa Bank. And then from Absa Bank, I went to join South African Tourism in the business tourism division. So this became a passion for me. And I continue to do it. I ran a convention bureau of the city of Tshwane. But what keeps me awake is the impact of the work in terms of business events, how much it has impact on the economic contribution. It doesn't matter where it is, whether you work in a conference center, whether it's a convention bureau, whether you're working in a bank. Conferences, events, exhibitions have got a lot of impact. And you can actually quantify the difference that you're making. That for me absolutely gets me out of bed every morning. But what makes me spring out of bed in the morning has been working at the CTICC. The last 5 years has been phenomenal. I have never come across I've been working for almost 34 years. I've never worked for an organization as professional, as ethical, as passionate as the CTICC. The work ethic amongst the team is phenomenal. And we are a municipal entity, and our shareholders are absolutely super supportive. I have an amazing board. So I think I hit the lottery coming to the CTICC. And it has really shown me what purpose looks like. I am living my purpose, making a difference in the lives of South Africans through the work that we do, but also knowing what the best team looks like, and also challenging me to be the best leader. Because when you are given a gift like the team of the CTICC, I cannot be the one that's pulling them down. So it's a big responsibility, but it doesn't matter what the challenges are, and there are many. There are so many. Sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? Then I remember I'm doing this because I work for an amazing organization with an amazing board, with amazing shareholders, but most importantly, an amazing team that I have the privilege to lead. So that's what gets me springing out of bed in the mornings, even if I don't want to get up when it's cold and it's cozy under the blankets.
Right. Thank you, Taubie.
Yes.
It sounds like you're competing, and the CTICC is competing for the World Cup of eventing.
Yes.
So,
No, the CTICC is an amazing organization, honestly, and the history of the CTICC over the last 20 years, it tells the story. I mean, it is not Taubie who has walked in and made it amazing. Taubie has been privileged to walk into an organization that has had amazing leaders that came before me to make it what it is. And it's going to be very difficult for another organization to really give me what the CTICC is giving me. If I have to go and work somewhere else, they really need to be, I don't know, they need to bring it. It's going to be very difficult to compete with the CTICC in terms of what would motivate me to go somewhere else.
right. Now, Taubie, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Wow. Look, leadership has taken on so many shapes, colors over the many, many years. Leadership used to be about position and rank. Leadership used to be about you telling people what to do, you calling the shots. And I think the future of leadership is about how you motivate and inspire people to lead where they are. Leadership is not about positions anymore. It shouldn't be. And whether we like it or not, the future of leadership is not going to be about, I'm the CEO, I know it all, what I say, it's my way or the highway. It's not going to happen like that. It will not work. It's about being a leader who inspires people to want to excel. They must want to excel, not because I'm telling them and not because I'm paying a salary. Leadership is about being willing to inspire people that they are willing to do something without compensation because it is the right thing to do, because it changes lives for better. If you can do that as a leader, it doesn't matter what you're paying people. People will always show up and do the right things for the benefit of the whole. But leadership also means, in the future, it has to mean that you also honor people and pay people right. You have to empower people to continue. So if you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So inspiration is not the only thing. It must be people must be allowed to live their lives, provide for their families, so that they can in turn inspire their families to be leaders. So leadership of the future is more about being an inspiration for greatness, really nurturing and cultivating greatness in others by being an inspirator rather than being a position. Positions won't matter in the future. It's about how you are able to move people at a heart level.
Thank you. Now, Taubie, in terms of developing future leaders, what have you learned from your own career that you consider most important for building, empowering, and developing future leaders?
I think for me, I was very fortunate to have worked for some bosses that saw me as a human being first, rather than just an employee and a title, and saw me as a whole human, that if the basic things on Maslow's pyramid of needs are taken care of, I'm not worried about where I'm sleeping. I'm not worried about that my mother is sick and I'm not able to look after my mother. I'm not worried about whether I've got food in my belly. I'm not worried that my child is sick, but I have to be at work. If leaders can see that to build future leaders is to build human beings, humane beings, actually, not just human beings, but we need to build humane beings that can then become humane leaders. Because if we don't have humane people leading organizations and countries, we have the wars that are raging right now in the world. So I think we have a responsibility as leaders to build humane beings that can in turn become humane leaders, because it's not only about a business that is successful. You can have a successful business, but if the country, the communities that we live in are not thriving, then people come to a business and they go back to toxic communities, and that is not going to serve anybody. You are not building leaders, you are building people that are scared, people that are not thriving, they are surviving. So the leadership development starts with developing humane beings.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you, Taubie. Now, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome in their career?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that leaders and people in general should hope and expect to encounter is that the way we do work is no longer going to be the same. People are demanding more, how can I put it, more humaneness from the workspace. So leaders must expect it and hope and I'm saying they must hope for it, for that challenge, because it also gives them and us as leaders the opportunity to tap into our own humaneness, to work with what is not working in our own way that we present ourselves in the world. So in terms of the world of work, they always say the new generation is challenging how work is done. And I'm hoping that it continues, because the whole thing after COVID, people are saying leaders must be more sensitive about mental health. It's things that have been long overdue. It's things that have been long overdue where as leaders we have been operating people like we're operating computers. But people are saying no more. No more. I have a heart. I bleed like your children do. I bleed like you do. You're a human being. You are not a robot as a leader. Connect with your heart. So that challenge, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that. But a lot of the other challenges that we cannot avoid, it seems as if there is now an escalation, and I think it's just the natural evolution of life, an escalation of communicable diseases that we are now having to deal with in business, escalation of conflict in the world. But again, and I think we are at a tipping point where we have to change the way we operate in the world, where we lead more with the heart. And this is to politicians, this is to world leaders, this is to big business also, how we operate in the world in terms of what we do to the planet, what we do to poor communities and challenging communities, how we operate, and whether we want to or not, these are the things that are going to present themselves to us more often than before. We can't avoid it. And our responsibility is to realize that these things are happening because we contributed. We actually made it happen. And our challenge is to fix it.
Now, Taubie, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are maybe what are maybe one or two skills you would like to factor in and maybe even teach?
One of the things that I would love, I wish some of the leaders that I worked for, the leaders that I encountered, we could teach them how to lead from the heart, not from the head. It's very easy to lead from the head because it's all numbers, it's theory. I wish we could teach people more how to lead from the heart and what that looks like. Because we must also remember that a leader only does what they have been taught, what they know. They learned leadership from their previous leaders. And if their leaders were not leading from the heart, they don't know how to lead from the heart. It's like when you look at your parents, who are your first leaders, actually, that you encounter in your life. Your mother and your father are only doing what they learned. And they're learning from somebody who also learned from somebody who did not know. So one of the things in terms of leadership development, which I wish would be, and I think it is a possibility, and we are seeing that a little bit popping up here and there in other parts of the world, is not only when you say leadership development, it's not about spreadsheets, all those things operational, but it's about really connecting with the heart. What is it to be a leader, a heart leader, without any vulnerability? I would love to teach vulnerability and what that looks like, and understanding that vulnerability is not weakness, and learning to balance the theory and the practical and the technical with the heart. Because unfortunately, we always see somebody that leads with the heart as weak. Don't show them your weakness. Never cry in the boardroom. Be like a man in the boardroom. You have to be twice as tough as a woman. I don't want to be a man. I want to be a woman in the boardroom and bring the heart and the gentleness but that does not mean that men are heartless. There's a lot of men that are gentle souls that can bring gentleness and vulnerability, but men are taught, boys don't cry, be tough. So we need to bring more heart. And if I can write that curriculum, there are courses out there, there are workshops out there that actually do teach that. We have just taken our 20 of our team members at the CTICC through a similar workshop like that, where you connect with who you really are at the core, how you were created, by the whether you call it God or Allah, the Almighty, the universe, but who you are, the pure humane being that you were as a baby. You never ever look at a baby and say, oh, this is a tough one. so that everybody thinks the baby is pure, has got love in them. So love is the big thing, and nobody talks about love in corporate.
So
Nobody talks about love. I would love to teach love.
So leading from the heart, can we reserve that module for you?
Yes, yes, you may.
Okay. Now, Taubie, as a mentor to so many future leaders, yes, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Oh, wow, 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 wow. There is about 2 or 3 people that I can point to, and it always warms my heart when I see them and how they're doing currently in their work life and in their personal lives. When I was at South African Tourism, in our unit, business tourism, we employed 3 graduates from the University of Johannesburg as interns. I've had the privilege of subsequently working with them where they, in another organization, where, you know, the work we did together and the advices and the grooming and the work that we did as me as the mentor and then the mentees, to see them thrive. And I mean, one of my mentees, who was reporting directly to me when I was at SA Tourism, then worked for me when I was the head of the convention bureau at the city of Tshwane. And I remember when we had a conversation where she was like, she doesn't know what she wants to do. And we sat and I encouraged her to go for her master's. She's recently just graduated for her master's. And the fact that she is doing so well, she is now interviewing for big international companies like Total Energies. And she still regards me as a mentor, means that I must have done something right. And I'm grateful that she gives me the feedback to continue doing the things that work. And also that when some of the things that I thought was good for her to pursue and she did not pursue. And now it also forces me to introspect and say, actually, that was not for her. The other mentee, that advice was. So it helps me that they are still, I'm very humbled that they are still in my life. They saw value to continue, because it's almost like a reverse mentorship, because it says to me, okay, so these things worked, these things did not work. And for me to realize that they're also teaching me that things have changed, you know, the things that the way they are leading in their own spaces as leaders now is different from how I used to lead, and I'm learning from them. So for me, that is very, very humbling. I mean, there's 3 of them. One of them went back, is now working as a senior manager at South African Tourism. And one of them is also working for a tech company. So for me to see them and the way they are leading is teaching me a new way to lead also.
Thank you. Now, Taubie, you mentioned one role model of leadership, the minister. Looking back over your career, are there any other role models of leadership that you encountered and maybe worked with that you feel future leaders should learn from?
Well, I can tell you right now, the person that I report, which is the chairperson of the board, Mr. Dion Klute, who Dion is currently the chairperson of the CTICC board, and he was previously the general manager for Cape Town International, and he's now the general manager for the new Cape Town Winelands Airport. I have not only learned how to lead from the heart from Dion. He has really taught me, because how he leads from the heart. He is a marvel to watch in leadership. But he also has taught me, with every single crisis, and the biggest crisis have got the biggest opportunities. And the way he runs the board the gentlest men on the board. He's truly, when they say somebody's a gentleman, he is truly a gentleman. But he's also taught me as a mentor that being firm does not necessarily have to come with aggression. I've learned a lot from Dion, and I believe he will be my mentor for life. You know, even when he leaves the board, when his third term ends later in the year, I am very confident that I have found a friend for life and a mentor for life. And I'm very, very grateful that life has made our paths cross. So between him and Mr. Mboweni, I've been very fortunate in my life to come across people that have held me in such prestige and really shaped who I am as a leader.
Thank you. Now, Taubie, where can our listeners follow you and how can they connect with you?
Well, I am not very good, and my team, they've given up. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Twitter, which is X. I am on LinkedIn. So people can get hold of me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a very short attention span, so I wouldn't be able to manage all these other social media platforms. So I'm happy with LinkedIn, and they're more than welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
And last but not least, Taubie, what is your message to the millions of learners out there who are looking to finish school, start a career? What are maybe one or two success principles they should keep in mind?
Finish school. One, definitely finish school. Finish whatever it is that you start. Having incompletions in your life drains your energy, drains your focus, drains your self-confidence. If you start something, finish it so that you can prove to yourself that you can finish what you start. It is a big confidence builder to finish what you start, because you do not then live your life with incompletions where you don't believe in your own capability. It does not matter how you finish, as long as you finish. That is the most important thing. And I had to learn that quite late in life. I would leave things incomplete when I was studying for my master's degree. After a long time of refusing to do a master's degree, I did all my coursework. And when I had to do my research and write this thing, it became so difficult because I was juggling work and study. I wanted to quit. My dissertation advisor from the University of Liverpool said to me, I am not going to allow you to have an incompletion. I don't care whether you finish and you still fail, finish. And he actually was with me every week. He would call me to say, okay, I'm with you. I finished with merit, which is quite a high mark for my degree, but it taught me that it is important to finish. So every young person who's going to listen to me, I don't care how you finish, just finish. It will tell you to also respect yourself and then teach you that you can keep your word to yourself. Finish, it doesn't matter how, it's very, very important for your self-confidence.
Taubie, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom.
Thank you so much, Dr.
And thank you for leading us into a better future.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to the book.